Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. It's really great to see so many people showing up tonight. My name is Xiaoyu Weng. I'm the artistic director of the Tanoto Art Foundation. I would introduce a little bit about the Tanoto Art Foundation first before I move to introduce our guest and also our curator and moderator tonight. Many of you probably already familiar with the Tanoto Art Foundation. We're funded and launched very recently in January during the Singapore Art Week. And the Tanoto Art Foundation is a not-for-profit, Singapore-based art foundation. And through programming and exhibitions, we want to engage audience and communities with contemporary art, particularly with a Southeast Asian perspective. At the meantime, a lot of our programmings are focusing on the South-to-South connections. So we wanted to connect artists and communities in Southeast Asia, the Asia Pacific, and South America. While at the meantime, the really main goal of the foundation is to empower artists. And so their practice and their work can be seen and also shared globally. So this is our goal and set to achieve. In the meantime, we are doing a lot of discursive events to really initiate conversations and collaborations. This evening is actually the Singapore premiere or debut of our TAF Conversation Series, which we actually launched in Hong Kong during Basel in March. Featured two artists, Lotus Ken and Heidi Lau, in conversation. And we also call it TAF Tuesdays because we're hoping to make it a tradition where the event would take place here in the Jungle Ballroom on Tuesdays. So hopefully you would come in the future. I think our next event will probably in late October, early November during the Singapore Biennial. So with further ado, I'm going to first maybe introduce our curator, Wang Binghao, also joined us in December. And then tonight, Bing is gonna moderate a conversation with our guest, artist, creator, filmmaker, many titles, Puangsoi, Aksornsawang. And also, I think Puangsoi calls herself Rose, so we can also call her Rose. We had a really nice conversation the other day. Rose was telling me how she felt like she wears many hats in her practice. Sometimes she felt like she is a filmmaker, a screenwriter, an artist, but also she started to work with a lot of performance. And oftentimes, audience will have questions for her as what kind of role you're really playing. And I think this kind of blurring the boundary and also trying not to be defined and the multiplicity of identities is something really interesting. So I'm going to let Bin introduce Rose properly, and I will hand the mic to you. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much for coming, everyone. So before we begin, just some housekeeping stuff. There's some light bites and drinks, so in between, if you wish to partake, just come up and take a drink. But thank you so much, Xiaoyu, for introducing us. And as Xiaoyu mentioned, this is the first time that we're hosting the Conversation Series in Singapore. And we just finished in Hong Kong a really successful event, I felt, during Basel with Lotus and Heidi, where we tried to really elaborate on TAF's research theme for this year, which is materiality. So Lotus and Heidi really talked about how materials are used in their practice to think about identity and diaspora. And today I felt like it's really fitting that Rose is here and she can really present another aspect of our research concerns, thinking about how she dematerializes through her works, but also through the boundaries between artistic disciplines. So what is the clear demarcation of like what's an artist versus a filmmaker versus a writer, and hopefully you will understand a little bit more about her practice after today. So a quick bio. Rose is a director, a writer, and a scriptwriter. And in 2014, she received the academic DAAD scholarship and completed her Master's of Fine Arts from the University of the Arts in Hamburg in 2018. Her debut feature, which we will hear more about, it's called Nakhon Sawan 2018, premiered at the Busan International Film Festival of that year. The film won Taipei's Golden Horse Observation Mission for Asian Cinema Award and has also screened at various international film festivals. Rosa's films are really an homage to our relationship with loss, and she uses moving images as a medium, not just to tell the stories, but also to blend fiction and nonfiction to reconcile our relationship with the self. So please join me in welcoming Rose today. So maybe we can begin by playing the sound clip first. Thank you.
To be water is to move without permission, to resist the demand to remain whole, visible, or defined. But water also carries things away. It is where stories vanish, lives vanish. Here, writing is not simply expression. It is an intervention, a way to reclaim what has been erased, to remember differently, and to ask, whose truth must we believe? Whose shore must we climb onto? Or do we simply rest a bit before swimming toward the next life? Before swimming toward the next life? Or perhaps there was never a shore. There was never a dream. Never a dream. Never anything in the first place. Sometimes I like to look at the water and see sparkles of the water glistening into the shore. Memories, flashbacks.
คนที่ไปลอยอังคารโดยเรือลำเดิมทุกปีท่าน้ำเดิมทุกปี คนรอบตัวจากไปทุกปีฉันเดินตรงเข้าไปในอนุสรณ์สถานบ้านน้ำเค็มเพื่อพบว่ามีป้ายห้ามสูบบุหรี่ป้ายไว้อาลัยภาษาเยอรมันพยายามอ่านสิ่งนั้นgeboren คือเกิด gestorben คือตายเด็กชายวิ่งลงไปในพระอาทิตย์ที่สะท้อนในน้ำล้มลงพ่ออุ้มขึ้นมาทรายสะบัดใส่แม่หัวเราะเสียงหัวเราะปะทะเสียงคลื่นทำไมถึงหายไปได้ยินไม่ชัดคนที่หายไปในแม่น้ำ
Im
ในมหา
Ozean.
สมุทร
Man hat mit der
การ
Suche
ค้น
schon
หาหยุดลง
aufgehört.
แล้ว
Die Sehnsucht bleibt.
ด้วยความระลึกถึง
Oder wir machen nur einen Zwischenstopp, ehe wir in die Jenseits hinschwimmen. Oder vielleicht gibt es den Ufer gar nicht. Hat nie gegeben. Vielleicht überhaupt keinen Traum. Nichts hat es gegeben. Schon von Anfang an. หรือเพียงเราหยุดเพียงแค่ชั่วครู่ก่อนจะวนว่ายต่อไปยังพบหน้าหรือบางทีอาจไม่เลยไม่เคยมีฝันอาจไม่เลยไม่เคยมีฝันไม่เคยมีอะไรอยู่ตรงนั้นตั้งแต่แรก
Oh. Hello. Rose, could you please tell us what we just heard? So we heard different languages and also sounds of the environment, but also people speaking. So could you share a little bit about what this excerpt is? And
So normally I used to do things about water. Like as being introduced me, I'm the filmmaker and director, and my first feature is about the river in Thailand that called Chao Phraya. And there's the river that, you know, in Buddhist, when there's a funeral and we will have the, like burn the dead, and then we will spread the ash in the river. And that river, like the name of the province is as my feature name is called Nakhon Sawan. It's heaven city. So people believe that when we go there, the death will go to the heaven. And this feature film is about my mother that I went on the boat and then I sent her to the heaven. And lately, I think 2 weeks before, I used this opportunity for the talk to revisit that river again, to see how it changed. But what is interests me is like it's the same boat that's still there. So I use the sound. I mean, normally I use text, you know, like film script or material like diary to be like my work. So this time I try to feel like, okay, if I record the sound, maybe I can use it as another material to work with memory. So the sound excerpt that you listen to, it's more like the revisit. And also I went to Khao Lak. Khao Lak is in the south of Thailand. Like 20 years ago, if you know about the news about the tsunami, and that area is like the most devastating area. And 20 years ago past, there's still some feeling or even everything changed. The tourists go there, but still there's some, how to say, collective mourning. So when I go there, I have some kind of like relating feeling, you know, like my first feature is about my personal mourning, about my mother, my loss. And then when I go to like the place where there's some kind of like collective history of mourning. So it interests me, and I want to find some way or find somehow to explore this kind of relationship. So in the sound excerpt, there will be like 3 languages, like Thai as my mother tongue, or even my first writing, like poetic things, I will write in Thai and then translate into English. And the German thing is like really interesting. Like, I mean, I studied in Germany, but somehow it's kind of like nostalgic thing to listen to German again. Even I don't understand 100% still now, but it's kind of like link me to the feeling of like language of isolation, but still in the way of try to connect. And I think the best word to describe is like assumption of like, okay, what am I thinking about? What are they thinking about? So when I heard like German, English, Thai, I think it's kind of like have their own relationship. Or even in Khao Lak, there will be the tsunami memorial, and most of the tourists there are German. So somehow it's really connect me in kind of like not only the feeling but also the language and somehow how they mourn with the plaque on the wall, or even the sensitivity of when I went there. Even that beach, the memorial park is not very tourist. There are like family there. So it's more like I use the sound to kind of like memorize and maybe interpret into my own way of like thinking about how sound, text, or even river or water like coming all together.
So I think you touched on one thing that we already kind of have talked a lot about through our conversations over the past months, and that we will see in other projects, which is the idea of transmission, but also the estrangement of that transmission. So we are not kind of interested in a direct conveying of information, or in this case of like a certain kind of trauma or remembering trauma. So we can definitely revisit that later, but I was curious to maybe push a little bit to ask you, why sound when you revisit a film? Why not another film image?
I mean, like, my very first background is writing and filmmaking, so somehow my world is like only 2-dimension thing, you know, like everything is in a frame. Another thing outside the frame is like, okay, the actor and actress will rest and waiting to join to the next scene. But I think sound, when I did my first performance last year with Bangkok City, it's my first time to learn about space in a way of it's outside a 2-dimensional thing. And that time, sound hit me a lot, like before, like in filmmaking process. I mean, it's visual and sound, but somehow, personally, I focus on the frame and the visual. And the sound we will do in the post-production, maybe some sound maybe hate me with this reason, but but sound will come later. But for the performance, sound become another character. So I'm really a lot into sound, because then another is more like a new way to think about like memory, not just, okay, when director working with the film, they just direct and give you the visual and vision, like, okay, this is what I select for you. But somehow when I listen to sound, or people listen to sound, they can have their own kind of like related or resonated memory of themselves and try to connect with the sound. So somehow I think sound become like another character that I try to put effort a lot more to learn how I, even myself, integrate into like working more with sound.
Yeah, so that's something we will also talk about in relation to your other works, which is the way that you mediate representation. So through language and your own writing, so you write all of your film scripts and your performance scripts, everything is written by you. And also now thinking about sound as a way to kind of channel and convey in a different way, in a different register, then, you know, these are really kind of charged and loaded issues to do with like a collective memory of trauma, national identity, perhaps personal loss. So maybe that's a good way for us to kind of talk about your first feature, Nakhon Sawan. And Nakhon Sawan, actually, if I'm correct in Thai, it means heavenly city. So it's the place, as you mentioned, where people kind of pay their offerings to the dead and send them off to a kind of idyllic afterlife. So maybe you could, as you mentioned, it's a film about your kind of grieving of your mother. But the film actually interestingly combines film footage and documentary footage of your family. So could you describe a little bit about why you want to do both styles?
Actually, this title is very interesting because you will see the dash between. Like normally for the name of the province, there will be no dash. But somehow I put the dash like to see like Nakhon means city and Sawan means heaven. So somehow this film is more like try to explore the in between. And as being mentioned, like I have the film footage of like when for example when I visit like my family, my dad and my mom separated. So somehow this is my dad, like he live in the south, and my mom and me still living in Bangkok. So somehow we have and even I moved to Germany. So there's kind of like a far connection, and I try at least to like try to find a way to connect that. So not the only way, but the natural way that I try to connect is like I bring just a digital camera, and then I just bring to film my mom, or my mom just asked me once like, okay, let's go to visit your dad, and then I bring the camera, just small one, and then I have some kind of this footage together, and even there's some like a photo of, when you go to your own cupboard, and then you found an album of your parents like long time ago, and you wonder like where were you, maybe somewhere in your mom's body, but somehow you feel like this photo is like it's not happening anymore. So I'm thinking like film at that time, like I thinking of like movies or making film could re-invite or reenact some kind of memory, and again how you memorize things. So I try to reenact the scene that maybe it's happened before. So I have a footage of me and my family go along the river and film my ash of my mother like spread in the river, and then I make the scene, like I cast the actor, I cast the actress to become not me but somehow another character to portray this kind of things, and then see how these two worlds, like okay, and it's interesting because some festival will call it documentary, and some festival will call it just drama thing. So I think this kind of thing is really interesting for the audience themselves to think about what you see. Like, okay, when it's called fiction, is that really fiction? Like a dialogue that I wrote, there's something like it's happened. But when it's come out from the character or the actress, people will assume that, oh, it's kind of fiction. And then again, when we saw the footage, that looked like documentary, and people will say it's real. But actually, I put the light off, I do in the post-production, make the day to the night, and is it real or not? I mean, I don't have answer yet too, but somehow this in-between things that really keep in my work to like explore what next.
I think we can watch a short clip.
แต่แกเก่งนะแกไม่ร้องไห้เลย
เป็นอดีตนะ
บูมไม่ได้ชัดอะ
ฮะ
บูมไม่ได้ชัด
See in the excerpt are the kind of filmed sections, so the sections that were reenacted. But in the film itself, there are actually very clearly sections that are filmed maybe on a documentary, so the image is grainier. It's clearly, your family because you are behind the camera, so they are answering your questions. So maybe if you get the chance to watch it, you can see the narrative kind of starts and stops. So maybe a scene that would be happening on a documentary would suddenly replay itself in what you would see, the kind of sheen of the trailer that you just saw. And I think maybe this is a great segue into your next project in performance, because even from the earliest stage of your practice, we see that Rose is very interested in a kind of maybe an interruption in the mediation of her work, when it could have been, a conventional linear film about a personal loss. Actually, I think it's very intentional that you chose this kind of discontinuous mode of telling a story. So maybe we can move to, so these are some clips.
No, it's my mom and my dad that I mentioned.
These are some clips from the movie. So maybe we can move to actually how you went from film to, and also circulating in film festivals, to working in a gallery setting with performance. What made you change that trajectory?
So Bangkok City. We have a good relationship, and then I'm totally that time I think of myself as a filmmaker, but somehow I try to write. Okay, it's kind of like when you first has a first feature, you try to like continue to have another one, and then that time I write another like second film script that's supposed to be made, but during the COVID and everything is a little bit like changing and chaotic time, so that film script is like left in the computer somewhere, and then that time there's just like a day that they invite me to like, okay, we have this kind of space and the day, like what kind of thing that we can collaborate together. And suddenly I think of that unmade film script, and I question about myself that, okay, if I have this kind of material and I cannot film it yet, if it would, can it be called a film, or what is to be called? So somehow I start to work with, okay, I will try to find the actor and actress, the sound, the score, but everything will be live. Like how can the film become operate in one space, and the audience like not just watching like the theater or the cinema, but they can walk around and see what kind of like happening. Yeah. Maybe we can show the book. Yeah, this kind of. But I mean, like another thing that I really interest is like filmmaking process. Like for example, when I love casting process a lot, like maybe more than filming itself. Like you try to find the one who like you write about someone a lot, and you know this character, and then once there's someone in front of you and they talk about something that from the script, and that moment you say, oh, this is the one, and this moment really like touched me a lot. So I use this casting process into the performance. So the performance itself, we will have the section of casting and also another section, they will act as a character. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a book that actually, another element, so the performance has many elements, but maybe we go through a little bit, but this is a small booklet that you actually distribute before you enter, before visitors enter the space. Could you tell us about the book?
It's really complicated. I try to understand myself too. But the process is I have the film script, and then I'm thinking of how could the audience relate it to the film script. So I ask myself, act as a male writer to write this book, but from the film script. So this book is like, it's about three stories, like resonate Bangkok, Berlin, and Singapore. I mean, I once here in Singapore 10 years ago for the film lab. And then there's something about like memories during the three cities. And then every audience will get this book before enter the performance. So somehow it's more like me writing a script and another one, asking the film script to be a book. And then me again, I don't know who, ask the writer of the book to having a performance. So it's kind of like many layers in the book. So during the performance, the audience again are allowed to read a book in the performance. There will be some details, some dialogue, some actors in the book that happening in the performance.
So it's quite similar to this handout that you received today that actually is the kind of script for the sound excerpt that we heard. So this is another layer in your performance and spatial practice that you are exploring, the writing, but then also how the audience receives the writing. So it's not just, again, through one channel, but it's actually through different ways that actually the more they convey information-wise, the less you might know, because actually here you are playing a lot with a kind of gendered performance, but you're also distancing yourself from the role of the creator or the author of the performance. And also, as you mentioned, then you you enact a casting process through the performance. So there's a lot of layers to show that the performance is in fact a performance. It's not, you don't get access to a kind of like reality or to a kind of truth about what your practice is about, or perhaps what are you talking about. So for instance, here actually the three characters you mentioned, they all have found a dead bird on their balconies. So that's kind of what connects them. But what also connects them is, I believe, is a story about a soldier who was disappeared, right? So there are certain layers of politics, but they are so deeply embedded in the work that you kind of have to like create and decipher the clues. So I think we're going back and we see again like how in your practice you really are almost making the audience work to kind of understand you. But maybe we can actually look at an excerpt. Yeah. So this is an excerpt from a draft of Dead Birds.
Berlin 52 ภาพจากกล้องวิดีโอ
The day my visa got rejected, it felt like I was allowed to be. And in order to be, I had to have some sort of proof, documents, speak a certain language, act a certain way, be this, be that, boxed and shaped into this person that they think is was holding an envelope of paper stamped with the word unite.
ตัวของใบสุโขเด็กหนุ่มค่อยๆประคองนกออกมาก่อนจะปล่อยมันบินโผล่ออกไปสู่โลกด้านนอกประตูกรงนกถูกเปิดทิ้งไว้อยู่อย่างนั้น
ไม่สามารถบอกได้ว่าเดี๋ยวน้ำตามันจะไหลตอนไหนอะไรประมาณนี้เนี่ยในชีวิตจริงเราก็ไม่รู้เนาะว่ามันจะไหลตอนไหนมันแค่แบบว่ารู้สึกแล้วบางทีความรู้สึกนั้นน้ำตามันไม่ออกด้วยซ้ำอะเราเคยช็อกอะรู้สึกเสียใจมากอะไรเงี้ยแล้วฮึบแรกอะมันเหมือนมันแบบสตันไปอะไรแบบนั้นก็เลยรู้สึกว่ามันก็บอกไม่ได้เหมือนกันว่าเราจะสั่งให้มันไหลออกมาแบบตอนไหนเลยต้องไป
Maybe, so now I think it's a good time for us to talk about the last project that you want to share with us. It's called The Velvet Kingdom, that you debuted at this year's Bangkok Experimental Film Festival. So it's again in this same vein of a video installation performance. Could you tell us a little bit more about the work?
As you watch the last excerpt from the draft of Dead Bird, actually we have duck unit too. So we collaborate together as a scenography and even the visual in the performance. So that time, that performance really, I think I become a student again to learn about not only sound but also how you create the feeling outside the two-dimensional form as I used to be. And so you will see the even the cinematographer in the performance. So not every filmmaking process, but somehow I try to imitate like what filmmaking itself to become in the space. So from that performance, it become the Velvet Kingdom, and I try that feeling again to like how can we pursue the feeling of creating some stories in another way, not only like filmmaking or visual as it used to be. So last year I had a chance to go to Khao Lak, and then I met one sound artist who do the sound experiment, and also we had a very interesting conversation about the sea and the wave, and even the sound is a wave somehow. And then he talked about like, you know, the sound of the wave itself, we cannot record it. It will become a noise. And so what he did, he create the sound of wave again, but from the electronic things or from the electricity and something like that. And that really resonated me a lot when I'm thinking about making film or telling a story. You try to like telling some life, you imitate characters, you try to create the character or story that resonate from the real life, even it's not happened to you, but somehow you have to borrow or try to find some memories or material in your life to create this thing. So, and the first performance, I collaborate with Baitong System, who is the sound artist. So this time, I'm thinking of, okay, if the actress or actor become sound, what should it be? So the Velvet Kingdom for Thai name that time is like personification, like you try to have two waves, like if two seas having a dialogue, what should it be? So the performance will start with just only the subtitle on the blue screen. And the sound, what we hear about the sound is like just two waves having a dialogue. You know, when two seas come to each other, it's become a wave. So I create, what I did is I I wrote a film script, and I think it's very interesting because it become a language to talk to sound artists. Because me myself, I'm not into. I mean, I cannot write or compose song or sound. So I use the film script as the language to let them interpret the character and having a dialogue. And then I use the read through process again to have two actresses like reading each scene.
Let's watch a quick excerpt. So these are the two actors who are reading, and again, you reenact a kind of table read. So if actors are testing, they would read the script around a table. So this is what you're kind of reenacting. So maybe let's watch a short excerpt.
โอเคค่ะเดี๋ยวซีนหนึ่งพี่ทรายเป็นจอยฟ้าเป็นโอเชียนนะคะ
ลูกไม่มีวันรู้หรอกรักกับเกลียดมันห่างกันนิดเดียวเราจะไม่มีวันรู้เส้นแบ่งของมันเราจะไม่รู้ตัวเลยวันหนึ่งพอมันรู้สึกมันก็รู้สึกแล้วพอวันหนึ่งไม่รู้สึกมันก็ไม่รู้สึกแล้วเลย
หายใจอีกทีเห็นป้ายเตือนว่าห้ามว่ายน้ำที่นี่ที่ยืนอยู่
คืนก่อนไฟดับทั้งแถบถ้าจะมองอะไรไม่เห็น
ผักเหลี่ยม
เวลามันมืดมากๆ
ไก่ป่า
ฉันจะได้ยินเสียงดังกว่า
ใน
เดิม
ส่วนพ่อไม่ค่อยมีสัญญาณ
เสียงของลำธาร
เลยขอส่งจดหมายมาให้ลูกอ่าน
เสียงของเรือยาวที่ไหลลงกะลา
ขอโทษที่ปากกาไม่ทัน
มันใช่จดหมายเสมอไหร่ไม่มีผู้ส่งไม่มีผู้รับ
So maybe before we open up for just questions and like mingling at the end, I think one last thing I wanted to ask about and to discuss is that in A Draft of Dead Birds and The Velvet Kingdom, you see many representational tactics. So you see a kind of live projection. Sometimes there's even a live feedback loop. We saw in A Draft of Dead Birds, your image on the screen. There's sound, which you are very, again, treating not as a kind of post-production or background effect, but a primary kind of element in the work. There's also the film scripts that you write as performance script. And there's also live performance. So some of the live performance that we saw in The Draft of Dead Birds and with The Velvet Kingdom are scripted, but some are also, you ask the actors to kind of improvise based on their own life stories. So for example, the actress in A Draft of Dead Birds, maybe she's actually talking about her real experience with immigration. So with all of these elements, I wonder what's next in your next work. Are you continuing to explore these kind of intermedia video installations, or what's the next project?
I hope that I mean, like, not that my destination will be a film, but somehow I try to like find a way to have a dialogue with myself about how to do a film in another way. So I think the performance when I did, I think I learned a lot in another way of thinking about materials or even memory itself. Like, okay, normally the traditional way is we have to write a film script, but somehow I really enjoy, as I mentioned, that I really enjoy talking to actors even before they become actress, like how their life, and sometimes it's very resonate myself, like trying to creating something. So I think it will be a film, but somehow in another way, maybe round. Like I have like a lot of questions to explore, but okay, maybe there's no answer, but somehow like sound, is that not in post-production as you mentioned? Could it be a character, or how visual become in my next film? How would it be like after this performance that I went through, or some experience that I had another dimension stuff out of the filmmaking process? I wonder myself too, like what would it be? So I think it's kind of excite me to see, oh, normally we see text only on a paper, but when I see text on screen, it become another feeling and another way of like perception to learn about visual or even text. So yeah, maybe it's a new way for me to try to find the way to making a film in the future.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
So there are many elements in the work, so I invite you to please ask any questions. So just raise your hand and I think we can circulate this mic. Does anyone have any immediate questions? Okay. Can you like speak and...
Hi Rose, thanks for sharing with us about your practice. It seems to me that your practice deals with a lot of unlearning and learning of new skills and materials and medium. So throughout the years in your practice, what is the most delightful discovery for yourself that you have engaged? Mind sharing?
I think it's maybe a very detailed and little things that I learned. For example, like when I direct film, I have my, picture log. Okay, this is the visual that I like. And you have like the 110% that it is chosen from you. But somehow when I did performance, it's more like a structure that I have 100% power again, but they have 100% power to, the team. So somehow it's more like I learn about trust. I think like everyone like, okay, let's go. Even we don't know yet what is the result. So somehow it's very honor and interest me a lot, like to have another, for example, for the draft of Dead Bird. So people allow the mobile phone inside, and then even some photo normally when you're making film, you will know the result of each frame or every frame. But when you see the photo from the audience or even the actor and actress themselves, you see another way around. Like, oh, I didn't like direct these scenes. Like there's some actress like peeling orange in another corner that I didn't see because I'm interact with another actress here. And there's some audience or other people that writing something on the book which supposed to be props. Like normally props are untouchable, don't touch this thing, the art department will say. But the performance allowed to like, okay, this is the area that it become another way of perception when you see another thing again. In film, I may adapt this kind of, okay, it's not cannot, oh, everything can be happen. But somehow this feeling, I think, is very nice to learn in my next filmmaking process, that how can I use this kind of feeling to make it, yeah.
I think it's also telling because when I asked for documentation of the performance, you were like, it's in excerpts. There's like small clips here and there. So I really appreciated it because you really have to be there in the space. But maybe a follow-up question is, how long were the performances for both Velvet Kingdom and...
The draft of Dead Bird is, I think it's supposed to be 1 hour at first, but it's become like 1 hour 30 minutes. So it's like a feature length somehow. And for the Velvet Kingdom, it's around 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Yeah.
Do we have maybe 2 more questions from the floor? Xiaoyu.
I'll ask a question. Well, we talked a lot also about sort of how you change your spatial relationship from the film of the 2D framing to the performance in the space. I'm also curious of your relationship with time, because for the film, there's also the linear time. But then in your performance, you seem to interrupt time in a way that is not just progressive or taking forward. And I'm also thinking about your a lot of your reflection on how the new film is going to be and what kind of different ways of storytelling. Because cinema for me is also really very much about time. So I'm just very curious, how do you see the relationship, your relationship with time?
Yeah, it's very interesting because in Draft of Dead Bird, like I'm really in the time, like really in the 1 hour, like 30 minutes, because I'm the performer, like in, how to say, it's become like, I didn't supposed to be performer, but somehow when you be on the space, on the stage, talking to the actor and actress, and you have to like, okay, I'm not the actress that remember the line, but somehow I have to like listen to the atmosphere of being there. So it's different when I working as a filmmaker. I'm living in time too, but in other time, like in the time in the script or in the time about the scene. So I don't have my own time, just the character and the scenery time. So I think it's kind of like different way. Like for example, in the Draft of Dead Bird performance, we have the script for the performance, but somehow there will be a room or a space. Like for example, this show round, I asked another questions. So the actress has to answer in another way that different from last time. But the funny thing is, another actress already speak about this topic before. So it's supposed to be this actress to talk, but another one talk already. So we have to like change, but in natural way, like from the script or from the structure that we have the plan before. So somehow it's very different way of thinking. And thinking about like the way of making film, I think time, as you mentioned, will be the main thing to think about. To like, for example, like when watching a film, you jump into the time of the film. But is there any moment that the audience could feel the present time of themselves, like watching film, and acknowledge that it's a film, or it's the audience being in the film? It's very complicated, but somehow this kind of relationship thing that I'm thinking of in making new film too, how the audience, maybe not just the audience of watching thing, but they can have some kind of space of themselves through thinking along with the character in a way, not only just like sitting in the dark room, but somehow they will become a really part of the film. For example, as in the performance, that they also can walk. I mean, okay, this doesn't supposed to have the audience walk in the theater or cinema, but somehow, yeah, I'm exploring this kind of relationship too.
I think this actually reminds me a lot of what in certain avant-garde cinema, theorists would talk about as an ambivalent image, especially with regards to depictions of politics or depictions of sensitive or traumatic materials. So instead of doing linear films, where you maybe even do propaganda films or sensationalize or stage sensational scenes to conjure a kind of effect, to evoke the effect in the audience, you actually are doing the opposite, which is to actually confuse and provide many different areas of entry. So the audience actually is deferred. They don't actually get to experience the sensationalist or spectacular idea of what you're trying to convey. Because even in the excerpts, you can tell that the subject matter is very sensitive. Everyone can have a story related to immigration or to death, but actually the way that you convey the information, I think differs that sensation. So the audience is kind of left unsure whether how they should react when they actually know the feeling and they know how to react. But I think they're a bit stuck in a limbo in a way. So maybe any last question or comments? We have food and drinks, so we really invite you to also have a casual conversation with us. No? Okay. I think maybe that's a really good way for us to conclude the event, and I really hope that you've learned a little bit, taken a little bit from Rose's practice, and I believe we will see your performance very soon in the region, so please keep posted on our social media, and please join me in thanking Rose again.
Thank you.